Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a closer look at something really core to, well, the American dream for many people.
Right.
That idea of owning land. It's seen as this ultimate tangible asset, something generational.
It absolutely is.
Mm.
But it's not without its complications.
Exactly. Hidden legal risks. Big ones.
Yeah, and that's where our sources come in today. We're looking specifically at the American Hunting Lease Association, the AHLA,
Okay.
and how they approach asset protection. They have this product, Vacant Land Insurance.
Vacant land insurance.
Right. So our mission here is really to cut through the marketing language a bit, understand what risks they're actually highlighting for landowners.
And how this insurance, which you said is basically a general liability policy, right? How it works to counter those threats.
Precisely. It's about understanding the mechanics behind the peace of mind they're selling.
And I noticed, the AHLA material doesn't just treat land like stocks and bonds. There's this emotional angle.
Yeah, they talk about building traditions, creating memories. It connects on that deeper level.
But then, boom, they pivot straight to the reality check. This dream asset. It's exposed constantly.
Mm-hmm. They're zeroing in on the liability that just comes with owning it, even passively.
So this vacant land insurance, it's general liability coverage.
Yes, exactly. It's their tool for protecting those assets, for giving landowners that buffer against potentially catastrophic claims, things like personal injury or property damage.
Okay, let's unpack that. General liability, it's a broad term.
Yeah.
What specific claims are we talking about here? What does this AHLA policy really shield you from?
Well, the sources are clear on this. It specifically targets claims alleging bodily injury or property damage, stuff that happens on your land.
Okay, injury or damage. But there's a catch, right?
There is. And it's the absolute cornerstone of liability insurance like this. The claim must arise from the landowner's negligence.
Negligence, that's the key word.
It's the legal trigger, yes. It means someone has to argue successfully that you, the landowner, didn't use reasonable care with your property.
And that failure directly caused their injury or damage.
Exactly. The insurance is basically there in case a court, agrees with that argument. It protects you from that finding.
Okay, negligence is the trigger. Now, the part that really jumped out at me from the sources, who can make these claims?
Right. This is where it gets particularly interesting for this type of insurance.
The coverage, it says, extends to literally anyone stepping foot on your property. And they make a very specific point of distinguishing between claims brought by an invited guest versus an uninvited guest.
Yes, that invited distinction. It's absolutely critical to why this policy exists in this specialized form.
Why is that? Why emphasize the uninvited guest part so much?
Well, it drills down into the legal duty of care. The level of responsibility a landowner has, it actually varies quite a bit depending on who is on your land.
Can you break that down quickly? Because I think for most people, like you said, land is land, a person is a person. Seems simple.
Sure. So legally, think of it in categories. If you invite someone over, like a friend or maybe a contractor you hired, it's an invitee.
Okay.
You owe them the highest duty. You need to actively look for dangers, fix them, warn them, make it safe.
Makes sense?
Then there's someone like maybe a meter reader or someone who has implied permission, a licensee. The duty is a bit less, but still significant.
Right.
But then you get the trespasser, the uninvited guest. Historically, the duty owed there is much lower. Usually it's just not to intentionally harm them.
Okay, so if the duty to a trespasser is already low, why is the AHLA making such a big deal about covering claims from them? Shouldn't landowners be relatively safe there anyway?
Well, that's the practical versus the legal theory. Even if the duty is low, proving you met that duty in court, that costs money, a lot of money.
The legal defense costs.
Exactly. The real value here, especially for claims from uninvited people, is often covering the fight itself, the legal bills.
So even if the claim has no merit, even if you're found completely not negligent in the end,
Defending yourself can still be financially devastating. The insurance protects your assets from the process of defending the claim, not just from potentially losing it.
that clicks. So the AHLA is basically saying, look, even if a trespasser gets hurt and sues, we'll pay for the lawyers to prove you weren't negligent.
Pretty much. It connects directly to their phrasing about eliminating the unknown possibilities.
Yeah.
The unknown isn't just if someone gets hurt, but the unknown cost of proving your innocence.
Right. And these unknowns on vacant land, they can be specific legal traps, can't they? Like that attractive nuisance thing.
Yes, the attractive nuisance doctrine. That's a classic example, especially relevant for vacant land and critically involving children.
Right. Something on the property that might, draw a kid in, even if they're technically trespassing.
Precisely. Could be anything.
Yeah.
Some rusty equipment, a falling down shed, maybe even a pond.
Things you might not even think twice about on a large rural property.
Exactly. And if a child who legally might not be expected to recognize the danger is attracted onto the property by that feature and gets injured.
The landowner can be held liable, even though the child was uninvited.
Correct. The duty of care towards trespassing children is often higher than towards adult trespassers because of this doctrine.
Wow. Okay, that alone seems like a huge reason to get this specific kind of liability insurance.
It's a powerful motivator.
So for you listening, this policy isn't necessarily about guarding against, like, deliberate vandalism. It's more about the passive risks, the things you might not even know are dangerous until it's too late, like an old treehouse collapsing.
That's a good way to put it. The source material is quite direct. Protect your dream from the liability anyone brings just by being on your property. Neutralize that vulnerability.
They talk about eliminating the unknown, but I wonder, owning a big piece of vacant land isn't dealing with unknowns just part of the deal. You can't possibly monitor every square foot constantly.
That's a really sharp point.
So is this insurance really eliminating the unknown? Or is it more about ensuring the unknown doesn't financially ruin you?
I think that's the more accurate way to frame it, practically speaking. You can't eliminate all risk. What you can do is transfer the financial consequences of that risk.
Okay.
And the AHLA's language, tying it back to the American dream, is smart marketing.
Yeah.
It makes liability feel like this fundamental threat to your family's legacy, which, I mean, it absolutely can be.
So the promise isn't zero risk, it's protection from catastrophe.
Precisely. Financial catastrophe protection.
Okay, so we've got the negligence trigger, the invited coverage. Let's talk about the provider, the AHLA itself. They aren't some giant general insurance company. They're focused. Recreational land, hunting leases.
Their specialization is definitely key here.
How does that focus shape this specific product and the way they sell it?
Well, if you look at their other main offerings, hunting lease insurance, guides and outfitters insurance, it's all centered around activities and risks common on large, often rural or wooded tracts of land.
Wait.
They understand the unique hazards, things like hidden holes, maybe old tree stands left up, unpredictable terrain, even just the higher likelihood of people being on the land, whether they're supposed to be or not.
Yeah, a standard insurer might just see vacant land, lump it in with a small empty lot in town. But the AHLA knows a 100-acre hunting property has totally different exposures.
Exactly. An invited hunter using a tree stand presents a different risk profile than, say, someone just walking their dog across a suburban lot.
Or even different than an uninvited trespasser on that same hunting land.
Right. They're underwriting risks they deal with constantly. Think about a simple scenario. A rusty barbed wire fence falls down along a property line.
Okay.
If an invited hunter trips on it heading to their spot, that's one kind of claim. If someone riding an ATV cuts through your property, hits that same wire, gets hurt, that's a different legal scenario.
Yeah. And the AHLA is presumably equipped to handle both, maybe more efficiently because of their focus.
That's the idea. Their specialized knowledge should streamline things, both in underwriting the risk up front and handling claims if they happen.
Something else that really jumps out is the speed they promise. They push this idea of getting coverage fast.
Yeah. Get an instant quote today and be covered tomorrow.
That message seems very deliberate. It says, landowners are busy, risk is immediate, don't wait.
It absolutely does. It highlights that liability doesn't wait for paperwork. For someone managing land, maybe alongside another job, that quick turnaround is a major selling point.
Maybe waiting weeks for someone to come out and inspect 200 acres.
Right. They're likely relying on their specialized data and understanding of these types of properties to offer coverage quickly, providing that immediate financial shield.
Okay, so pulling it all together then, what's the bottom line for a landowner looking at this?
Well, the AHLA presents this as a policy tailored specifically for vacant land risks, made by the people who understand them best.
Meaning it covers those negligence claims for injury or damage.
Right. Crucially, whether the person involved was supposed to be there or not. That combined coverage, especially the clear inclusion of uninvited guests, seems to be the core differentiator from maybe a more generic liability policy.
It's about insulating that land asset, that dream, from the worst-case legal and financial outcomes that can spring from simply owning property, especially large, harder-to-monitor property.
Exactly. Passive ownership, active risk. This is designed to cover that gap.
Okay, great. So let's recap the main takeaway here. This specialized vacant land liability insurance is really built to tackle negligence claims, claims of bodily injury or property damage happening on your land.
Hmm.
And its key feature, as highlighted by the AHLA, is covering incidents involving both invited and uninvited guests. It's positioned as essential protection for your assets for that piece of the American dream against potentially ruinous lawsuits.
Yeah, if land ownership is the dream, the source's frame liability is the potential nightmare. The unpredictable legal vulnerabilities stemming from the land itself and who might step onto it.
So the insurance aims to manage that unknown financial fallout.
Right. But it leads to a final thought for you, the listener. The AHLA emphasizes eliminating the unknown through insurance. But that's reactive, right? So thinking proactively, what specific documented steps could a landowner take before an incident ever happens? Things like maybe clearly posting no trespassing signs, maintaining fences, doing regular documented safety checks of the property. How can you actively build your defense against a potential negligence claim from the outset, strengthening your position even before you'd ever need to rely on the insurance payout? That proactive stance seems like the crucial first layer in truly protecting that dream.